Alright guys, hello, Mr. E here, and today we are doing a video all on this weapon right here, the Branks Mark 6 Shock Maul and Suppression Shield, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite weapons, not only on Arbites but in the whole game. This thing is just super powerful, super versatile, and I feel like it has a lot to learn about such a simple weapon. It can take you all the way from just like left click spam rolling through hordes to some actually pretty mechanical play, and it is also very strong stats wise to boot. So I wanted to just go over what I think are like optimal stat setups and then show you some weapon combos, and finally we'll round it off with a build demonstration. So should be a good time. If you like this sort of content, make certain you're subscribing and like the video and comment what weapon you think maybe I should take a look at next. Alright, let's start by talking about some of the stats on this thing. First of all, you should go check out a video that recently was recommended to me, thank you YouTube algorithm, that pointed out, I can't remember the name of the channel, but I'll put it right here on the screen. This player helpfully pointed out how much better defenses is than power output. The reasoning behind this, I mean, I won't like completely steal his explanation or his thunder on it, but the reasoning behind this is, if I could actually show this, the actual effect that you get from power output in this weapon is only the range and angle of the flashbang that comes from the weapon special, which is barely increased at all by increasing this to 80%. However, defenses actually gives you quite a significant reduction in sprint cost, push cost, dodge distance. All those things. Your dodge limit would stay the same, obviously, but these are things you're going to be doing quite frequently, and defense is a very strong stat to have on this shield. On some weapons, defense is definitely the nump stat, but on shield weapons, like the Ogre Shield and this one, they tend to be pretty strong because of those stamina cost reductions. And the Arbites loves low stamina cost weapons because he doesn't have to run stamina curios because of his fast stamina regeneration, so you can be shoving with this thing like every second. And in the footage, you'll see me throwing out a shove nearly every time I think there's an enemy attack incoming, and it keeps you safe for an obscenely long time. So this weapon is very good at just keeping enemies off of you with those shoves in general. So that's why we're dumping power output. Everything else is going to affect your damage into hordes, damage to single targets, and of course your stamina regeneration. For perks, Carapace enemies is pretty much a must here if you're going into Havoc, just because your biggest enemies are going to be the ones that don't die in like 1 or 2 hits, and that's just going to be Crushers. It's going to be Crushers and Maulers, right? The other types of enemies in the game generally fall over in 1 or 2 hits. You can also tech the other one into Flak or Unyielding if you want a little bit more boss damage, maybe killing some Reapers or Bulwarks. That's really all Unyielding is for. Flak is very generalist, but this weapon is slow as hell at killing bosses either way, so I'd probably recommend going for a more boss-killing focused range weapon instead of just beating him to death all day, although that's still a viable strategy. You won't die doing it, that's for sure. And the reason you won't die is because of these excellent blessings the weapon has. Now, for my money, the best 2 that you can slot in here are Confident Strike and High Voltage. But let's actually take a look at the full roster. We've got the All or Nothing blessing up here, up to 40% strength. Sounds tantalizing, but the problem is you have to have your stamina depleted to do this. It is very hard to effectively deplete your stamina on the Arbites because he regenerates stamina quickly and very aggressively. He only needs to pause for half a second before he starts regenerating, and that means that yeah, he's kind of at odds with keeping his stamina low. That's unfortunate, but it's really fortunate for the class because stamina is awesome. But yeah, so this one isn't like perfect. It kind of requires too much micromanagement to get the benefit out of it. Same thing goes for counterattack right here. This 6 to 12% attack speed once every 5 seconds on a perfect block. This is just too much micromanagement for a small buff. We are going to get much more sizable buffs for our perfect blocks in the talent tree, and we will have plenty of attack speed. We don't need to waste a blessing on getting this right here. We do, however, need High Voltage. High Voltage is a crazy DPS increase. Most attacks on this weapon, thanks to their high stagger values, do shock enemies, including bosses, and that means that all subsequent attacks on that enemy are going to do 25% additional damage, which is obviously just a 1.25x multiplier on all of your melee hits, which is crazy. So grab this one. Definitely make this one of your 2 choices. Lightning Reflexes is going to be a good off-meta pick here. It's funny if you're going for like a meme block build, because when you block enemies, they get shocked for 3 seconds, during which time you get a 25% strength buff, and therefore you can retaliate on them and do, you know, murder them. But it's not that useful outside of the occasional block on like a Crusher or a Rager or something. Unfortunately, it does shock bosses, but it doesn't stagger them and knock them back. If it did knock bosses back, that would be very, very good. I'd raise it by a whole weapon tier, I think. Opportunist, I think, is just an overinvestment. I see a lot of newer players grabbing this because they think that this weapon isn't that good against metal, and so they grab this. The problem is that rending as a stat really only affects your damage into Crushers and Maulers, and Maulers die fairly quickly with this weapon, and Crushers aren't far behind that. The thing about this is you're wasting a whole blessing to get only a small amount of rending that's only good against 2 enemies. And remember, rending doesn't have almost any effect at all against enemies that are not carapace armored enemies, especially only 25% rending. So I would actually give this a pass, and my recommendation for the second blessing is right here with Confident Strike. Confident Strike, easily one of the most broken blessings in the game, just allows you to sustain your toughness off of anything. So is there a boss you're face tanking? Well, just continue to attack him, and every time you chain a hit, meaning you've just hit the first time, the second attack that you launch that hits a target, any target, and every subsequent attack is going to give you 8% of your toughness back. That is crazy, especially when you consider that this build here can stack 40% attack speed with relative ease. So you're going to be getting a stupid amount of toughness back every second, and that's going to make you nigh invincible to pretty much anything. Hammer Below is alright as well, up to 125% impact once it's stacked fully. Again, this weapon doesn't really need a whole lot of impact additionally, but this will make your impact kind of nuts. I mean, but we have plenty of impact in the tree as well, so I would definitely give this a skip because we don't need to have 300% impact on this. Things are going to get staggered already. Last Guard is just no thanks. I don't need the 30% block cost reduction in all likelihood, and then the first part is just useless. Block breaks push enemies. When is the last time that your block was broken? Especially if you have a 30% block cost reduction, they're never going to break your shield, and so you'll never get the first benefit out of that. Yeah, that's just too much investing in blocking and standing around. As is offensive defense. My choice for maybe the worst talent or blessing in the whole game. This thing makes no sense. What you have to do is stand around and block attacks, and then, and only then, you'll get a 10% buff on the next attack that you do. And you can get up to 5 stacks, so you'll have 50% strength on that attack. When you hit an enemy with that attack, or that next attack gets 50% additional strength, but then it loses a stack. And these stacks only last 3.5 seconds. So think about this. You block enemies, you get your 50% stacks, you got 5 stacks there, you attack an enemy again, and then you try to block, and no enemies happen to attack you in the next 2 seconds, you lose your stacks. Because you haven't blocked, you haven't lost any stamina to blocking. So yeah, that really, really sucks. And it's just super micromanagement heavy, and that buff is way too short for the stack duration. This thing needs a serious rework. I get what they're going for, but yeah, I really, really don't like it. But my recommendation is, again, high voltage and Confident Strike, and just win all day. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's take a look at the stat breakdowns, the weapon attack breakdowns of this shield, so we can better understand where its power is coming from in different weapon combos. If you didn't know how to get to this, you can go all the way into Inspect the Weapon here, and then View Attack Breakdowns. I'll show you this menu here, and this is actually a very, very important tool for understanding which sets of attacks you want to be spamming the most, which ones are going to have the best effect. So this is our light attack combo. If you just spam light attacks like an Unga Bunga, you will end up doing all of these 4 in sequence. So the first one and the subsequent 3 here are doing some very, very sizable stagger value. That's that blue denoted thing there. But this second attack, this wide attack that damages many enemies at once, you can see that it has less damage and less stagger than a lot of these things. So it's good-ish for killing off light enemies if you don't really want to bother doing anything else, but it's not our most effective way of clearing multiple targets, and it'd be nice if we had another really competent, strong weapon attack that can clear multiple targets. Fortunately, we have that over here on the heavy attack side. So the heavy attack side has only 2 attacks that alternate, right? This wide attack, which is swinging the shield open wide like this, and then it's followed by this heavy overhead. So if you just alternate heavies, you'll get this combo right here. Unfortunately, this combo here isn't really effective for either situation, because if you have Horde around you, well, this attack is really good, but then this one only hits one enemy. So we want to sort of find some way to get this attack for only clearing Horde. I mean, you could just chain that with block canceling, I suppose. But we also want to find a way to get the second attack for when we're dealing with single target attacks. Another thing I'll note while we're here and looking at these stats is just how effective criticals are on this weapon. The normal body shots doing 240 with the weak spots, and criticals doing 386. That is that's quite a lot, right? That's over. It's like a 1.6 multiplier. Weapons tend to be really, really good when they start getting above 1.5, 1.6. So these weapons really do pop off with some crits, and that's great because the Arbites with most setups is going to have around 20 to 23% crit. So very, very solid. Let's whip out of here, and then I'll show you two weapon combos that I think are going to be really, really important for understanding this weapon a little bit better. So this weapon is totally ungabungable. You can just spam light attacks all day and you're going to be just fine, especially on lower difficulties. I mean, hey, I'm sometimes play really lazy and I'll just start spamming light attacks and that works just fine. But if you really, really want to maximize your damage into, say, like a Crusher or something like this, you want to be hitting him with like the actual attacks that hurt him. So we could do this like light attack spam, but we're really relying on a couple of attacks in there. You saw there's a couple of attacks in this combo chain, like that one, and the shield punch, and that follow-up with the stab that actually do the damage, but that second attack there is pretty much worthless. So we want to cut that one out, and how we can do that is by doing this weapon combo here. We can do a light attack, followed by a heavy attack, followed by a light attack, followed by a heavy attack. And then we'll just rinse and repeat, light, heavy, light, heavy. So just first light, then heavy, and then it's we'll get another guy. Light, then heavy, then light, then heavy, then light, etc. And just rinse and repeat. All you got to do is throw that first light and then alternate from there. And you'll keep it going. And that's your single target combo. So really, really effective into single targets. That's how you're going to be able to pump the most boss damage, pump the most Crusher damage, and just get rid of those high health single targets the fastest. Now let's give ourselves a few small enemies to showcase our second weapon combo that I want you to learn here, which is the AoE, or the crowd control, horde control weapon combo. So as we assessed before, this attack right here, awesome for clearing hordes, as you can see. But the problem is, if you continue chaining heavies, you go into this attack and you can only hit like one narrow band of enemies in front of you after that. So we want to find a way to get rid of that combo, which is really easy. All we got to do is start with heavy, then go light, then go back to heavy, then go light, and then go back to heavy. And that is your horde clear combo, etc. I just put a heavy in there for no reason. Of course, you can also just spam light attacks. So just to recap here, for our multi-target combo, we want to start with the heavy and then alternate light and then go back to heavy and then etc, etc. And for our single target combo, we want to start with the light and then go heavy. One final weapon combo you can do if you are in a horde of enemies is to open up with a push stab. So push and then follow up by holding the attack button. So push stab. And then what we'll want to do from there is go back into the light attack. So you'll push, stab, light, and then heavy, and then light, and then heavy from there. So just replacing that first attack in the combo with the heavy with the push stab instead. And that's a great way to open up. I think you should be pushing pretty much all the time with this weapon. This weapon has a very, very large push radius, as you can see there. You can keep enemies off of you from an absurdly long distance away just by shoving with some regularity. And because we're playing Arbites, and Arbites is fucking cracked, you will get a ton of benefit out of pushing in general, because we're going to get not only space, but we're going to get our toughness back too. So make certain that you are weaving some pushes in, like at least every couple of seconds. Every 3 seconds or so I throw out a push, because it's going to keep our toughness regeneration up as well. Alright, and a few final things about the weapon. Obviously we have this weapon special on here that you probably are familiar with, right? This little bar, this gauge over here. This is your flashbang. Now, what people don't know about this flashbang is it actually has a much longer range than you might think. So actually, it's more like here, I believe, that the flashbang can go to. And this is a super effective weapon special. I don't see players that are using the shield using it enough. It's very, just don't use it as randomly. Use it when you have an enemy who is going to be a pain if you don't get an interrupt on them. So please, like, if you have a gas bomber who's like between here and they're about to throw, or a flamer or a trapper, use your flashbang, and you can see it hit all those enemies all the way over there. That is a long distance away, guys. So be certain to use that flashbang and interrupt them and get that reset, get that time so you can close the gap and hit them. And then also remember that this weapon can actually block sniper shots. It can block all range attacks as well. So we can just stand here and take sniper shots on the chin, no problem. And that is one of the best things about the weapon, is we can just block all sorts of nonsense. Well, there you go, guys. So that's the rundown on how to use this weapon and some really good setup of blessings. Let's take a look at a build that focuses around the strength of this weapon, and then I'll show it some gameplay in game. Alright guys, here she is. This build you can find on Games Lantern. It is called Mr. E's Control Warrior if you want to go look it up and see the textual guide, but everything is as I have used it in game, and you will see it in the clip in just a minute here where I'm showcasing how crazy correct, defensive, and aggressive this build is. So we want to take the Brank's shield here with power output dropped all the way down for the reasons I mentioned previously. Carapace and Unyielding were my choices for the games that I was playing, although you could also make this Flak, High Voltage, and Confident Strike for extra damage and extra toughness regeneration. Your secondary weapon is up to you. I really love the Mark 8 Exterminator because it's just an all-purpose sniper, and it has a ton of ammo, especially if you remember to use those special shells that I never remember to use, with full bore and sustained fire Flak Armor Maniac to get rid of those elite and special targets. For your Curios, 3 17% toughnesses, and then you'll want to have 3 revive speeds on here because we are a great linchpin for getting into a situation with maybe a shield charge or a flashbang and then getting a res off the back of that. The flashbang itself off of the shield offers just enough time if you flashbang and immediately start the res that most things will not even be able to get to you to attack you again. So really nice to have triple revive speed there, especially in Havoc. We also want to grab block efficiency on all 3 of these. Block efficiency just cuts down so much on the damage we take on the shield, and so we can just walk towards enemies. You know, you got gunners and stuff that are being annoying, just walk towards them. Just take it on the chin and walk over there. You got a bunch of horde around you and you need a second to regenerate your dodges, just block it. With this much block efficiency, remember that this class regenerates stamina like crazy, so all we have to do is pause for a second and we'll start regenerating that stamina and we can continue blocking. I also grabbed 2 damage resistance to gunners and 1 stamina regeneration on here, so we're going to be tanky as all get out, plus we can revive our allies. That's the whole idea. Down here in the talent tree, make this little triangle pattern. We want this 10% attack speed here. We grab another 10% attack speed here whenever we do a perfect block, which means you are blocking after the attack has already begun to swing at you. So once you see the Crusher's attack, the overhead coming in, then you throw up the block, and that will count as a perfect block. This also goes into Force of Will and up close, crazy toughness regeneration here, and if that wasn't enough toughness regen, we also have Walk It Off down here. So Walk It Off can trigger anytime we shove, anytime we sprint, and I believe it's even glitched, so it's triggering whenever you swap your weapons right now too. So Walk It Off is just going to constantly regenerate our toughness. We're regenerating a stupid amount from these, plus Confident Strike on our weapon. There should be no way that our toughness is getting broken with all this combined, plus what we have later down in the tree. And we grab the Voltaic Shock Mine going straight down the center here. The Voltaic Shock Mine is going to give us just the absolute peak in crowd control because we are going Lone Wolf with this build, which means that we're going to get 3 Shock Mines max and we get another one every minute. So make certain that you are laying these down with some regularity. Don't just sit on them. That's a waste, especially if you have 3 in your backpack. Throw one immediately. Throw it somewhere that you might backtrack to. Coming out this way, going for the stagger side, seems good to me. Mead seems good to mead. And then down here for Break the Line. Break the Line is going to give us a huge steroid of 25% damage and 50% impact for 6 seconds. So naturally we want that cooldown to be as low as possible so that we get this buff as much uptime as possible as a percentage of the whole. And that's why we're going to take not only Commendation for Condemnation, but Targeted Brutality, because this can lower our cooldown by 5 seconds, making our overall cooldown 15 seconds, and therefore the uptime on this is going to be 6 out of every 15 seconds, which is crazy, especially when you consider the synergy that's going to get with our Keystone. Commendation for Condemnation is also a really, really crazy ability modifier. I guess I'll mention it here. Getting 100% of your toughness back, and up to 75% of your stamina when you're colliding with other enemies is nuts. Use this ability. What you should be doing is using your shield to walk towards groups of gunners or reapers or whatever, and just walk right up on them. And then once you get close enough, charge that last couple steps into them and get all your stamina back, get all your toughness back, and you'll be perfectly fine. And that's the way to play. Do not be afraid to use your shield and actually block attacks from time to time, because you can get all your stamina back no problem. Out this way we grab Justified Measures and then Rebreather. Rebreather is your flex perk here. I think Rebreather is really, really good. It might be like it might even be S tier, honestly. Rebreather makes you pretty much immune to pox gas. With the amount of regeneration this class has going on, even just the regeneration from Walk It Off means you can just stand in pox gas forever as long as you're spending stamina by shoving or something. And you can just breathe in that stink all day and you're perfectly fine. So that it becomes increasingly relevant on higher difficulty of Havoc, where getting pox gassed out of a room can be the ending, part of a bad fight. It's like, oh shit, we can't be in here anymore. But with Arbites, yes you can. And of course it also makes you immune or partially immune to the tox bombs that the twins lay down. So you can just be a walking landmine detonator. One of those classic 15% damage nodes for the Arbites. There's like 7 of, same with Justified Measures. And then the automatic pickup for every build ever on Arbites, Zealous Dedication and Soul Guilt Scan. Over here we go for these two, another 15% damage, another 15% damage. Straight down the middle here for Drive Them Back, 75% cleave, another great reason to be pushing at least every 3 seconds. We're not only going to be regenerating our toughness through Walk It Off, we're also going to be giving ourselves an extra bunch of cleave every time we shove enemies for 5 seconds, and that cleave is going to allow us to carve through hordes with our weapon heavy combo. Forceful is our keystone of choice, and Forceful synergizes super crazy good with everything we got going on so far. It gives us up to 25% damage resistance and up to 50% stagger, or rather impact, and that is stacked up by either blocking or hitting staggering hits. Remember that our stagger value is stupid on this weapon, so every single hit is going to be a staggering hit. And then of course blocked attacks is also really easy to stack up. Just block a gunner for like 0.2 seconds, you'll have 10 stacks. On this right side we get Target Acquired, which is going to give us another 10% attack speed. If everything is triggered on this build, you will have plus 40% attack speed, which is nuts. Over here we've got Adamant Will, which is going to make it so that we have stun immunity when we are at those full stacks. This is amazing because stun immunity is something that you don't realize you need it until you get stunned. The first time you get shotgunned to the back and suddenly you can't move because your character's stunned, and then you get shotgunned to the back 2 more times and die, you wish you had stun immunity. But also you can block all attacks, such as the big crescent sweep that certain like sword and captains will do, as well as like Rinda Karnak will do it. Crusher overheads, boss overheads, all that stuff can be blocked thanks to this Keystone of Adamant Will. And then finally, Arbites Vigilant. This is a really, really powerful combat steroid here. Every time you charge, you consume all of your stacks. You consume all 10 of your stacks, so you lose the defensive buffs and the stagger buffs, but you gain up to 25% strength. And then all you gotta do is just get those stacks back. And remember, you keep these 2 buffs for 3 seconds after you lose max stacks, so you just gotta get those stacks back, which should be super easy, especially if the horde is dense enough. So this Arbites Vigilant combined with Break the Line is gonna give you 25% strength and 25% damage. That's a lot of damage, and so you can really pump some big numbers if you can like sneak up behind a Beast of Nurgle and start wailing on them with the heavy attack combo in that period of time. By the way, I have already published this build as a dedicated build guide video, but go check it out if you want to. This is what the build title is called, and here's what the thumbnail looks like. And of course, it's on Games Lantern, as I mentioned previously. And that's everything I have to show today, guys. I really just wanted to focus on this weapon because it is so absolutely peak. It's easily one of the best weapons in the game. It's close to the RPG Shock Maul in terms of just its sheer power. And I want you to check out this clip of myself just you know, taking on the fucking world with this thing. Enjoy, and I'll see you very soon. Bye. Oh. Barrel. Barrel. So many fucking barrels, dude. Let's go. Oh my god. I just did a wall ride. Oh my god. Oh. Guys, this class is good. I got an idea, guys. I didn't realize you guys were right here. Don't stop me. Yeah, just taunt and pull him away. Give me that shout. Whoa! I got some sick air. My health, no! God damn it. Yeah, I ramped off of something with the charge and just went into the air, like whoop. That was kind of cool.